Now, I did the video saying black women should be ashamed of themselves for the supporting of The Color Purple, where they portrayed the black man as the villain of black women during 1909 to 1905, basically the first generation out of slavery, where a black family was married at a somewhat of an 80% marriage rate. This lesbian woman and this white Jew produced this film, making black men the villains at the time we was going through mass lynchings, our communities being burnt down. If you notice throughout the movie, they show no contrast. If marriage was a high rate at that time in our community, why do they not show the contrast of successful marriages at that time in the movie? Every man in the movie Color Purple is depicted as a monster preying upon the black women, and there's no showing of the environment that black people was going through at that time, where they was being mass murdered and economically oppressed all throughout the South. But this woman wrote, so black women should be ashamed of the truth. It's a false story. It's written as a fictional story. Where is it true? Black women was physically, mentally, emotionally abused as starting as children. The fact is, older black men were taking little girls as wives. Why there was a large forced marriage rate at the time. My grandfather was about 10 years older than my grandmother when he married my grandmother. And guess what? My grandfather treated my grandmother like a queen. No affairs on them. 6 kids by the same woman, took care of her until he died, and even after death, she got a pension off what he did, off his work ethic. So at that time, yes, that was a normal process. And you cannot automatically say it was abusive at that time. Now times has changed. We have matured. Conditions has changed. It's an unacceptable practice. Yes, we understand that. But my grandmother and grandfather married in that similar situation, and no, my grandfather was not abusive to my grandmother. So this woman is not understanding the historical atmosphere at that time of this film, and this is why I said we should not support The Color Purple, because of the miseducation that it provides when it takes out of context the condition that black people was in from 1909 until 1940s, when we was going through things such as the Red Summer, when white people was coming through our community, mass murdering us, scamming us out of wages. We was dealing with the convict leasing program, where they was constantly locking black people up in the South, putting them in incarcerations. So where did black men have this power over these black women when they did not have this power over themselves? You do not take into account the historical conditions that this film was set in, because you are uneducated. Stop commenting off your emotions and pay attention to what is said in the video. Page called Unapologetically Black ADOS. I ask that you like and subscribe to that page. I did a video on that page about The Color Purple and why black people, or black women especially, should be ashamed of themselves for empowering that negative image of black men in The Color Purple. We have to understand that The Color Purple is set as the first generation out of slavery. And as the first generation out of slavery, they portrayed the black man as the villain of black women when we had a large marriage rate at that time. Also, if you notice, they made this black man all powerful, that he had no visible means of income, but he had the power to oppress this black woman. This is an inaccurate predicament, or in that time. He was not farming. There was nothing he was doing to show him actually generating the income to be able to afford that house, to be able to stay at that house at luxury in the way that he was. have to be honest that this whole setting of the movie was fictitious. The character that Danny Glover played in the original one was a fictitious character. At that time, a black man would have had to have some type of skill, labor, and ability to generate an income in order to maintain in that society, which they made no depiction of that in the entire show. All they did was... So for this woman to say that the movie, that it's a true story, is ridiculous.